You're listening to the Griffin Sports Insider Podcast, live from Hi-Ho Bar and Grill in St. Joseph, Missouri. It's our live weekly chat with Missouri Western coaches and athletes. Here's your host for the Griffin Sports Insider Podcast, Tommy Rezach.
And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome into Hi-Ho Bar and Grill for our Griffin Sports Insider Podcast on an absolutely gorgeous Monday in our city on here this Monday, March the 10th, 2025. I'm Tommy Rezach, and if you listened to Missouri Western men's and women's basketball in the MIAA tournament this past weekend, you would have known that this is about the best my voice has sounded in 3 or 4 days. We ain't quite at 100% yet, but coming off a little cold, perhaps a little laryngitis, I'm not sure, but I feel perfectly fine. I want people to know that, and I had so many Griffin fans and coaches reach out to me via text message, social media. They're like, I heard you. You good? You good? I'm okay. I am okay. I'm getting better. I'm fine. So I appreciate everyone's questions and concerns about that. But the show goes on. This is March, and we're dancing here in the month of March. We've got an NCAA tournament bid to talk about throughout this program, but a lot else going on with spring sports, obviously in the depths of their season now, and Missouri Western softball, they're already competing. In fact, they just started at Nebraska Kearney for a doubleheader set to start at noon and 2. So good luck to the Griffins there after softball split at Fort Hays State yesterday. So the week of athletics is already off and running here at Missouri Western. It is a busy weekend for softball. Let's just stay there for a second. Their home opener finally comes up this week on Wednesday. They're home to Upper Iowa for a 2 and 4 o'clock doubleheader. And then softball stays home this weekend to host 6th-ranked Rogers State on Saturday. Those games will start at noon and 2 p.m. We'll talk some Missouri Western baseball. Quinn Gundelfiner is here. He'll be joined by Damian Stambersky later on. The Griffins really gutted out a win yesterday against Northeastern State in pretty thrilling fashion, 13-11. Mr. Gundelfinger's grand slam, a part of that winning effort. So we'll talk about that as baseball. They get ready to open up a road trip. They're at Maryville tomorrow afternoon. That is the University of Maryville in St. Louis on Tuesday at 3, and then a 3-game MIAA series at Newman in Wichita Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So that's what's coming up for baseball this week. Missouri Western Lacrosse, they had one match. It was on Friday. It was in Quincy, Illinois. They played Northern Michigan. Did not go the way of the Griffins, an 18-6 decision. But Lacrosse has 2 more matches this weekend, one at home and one on the road. Lacrosse will be home to Concordia St. Paul Friday at noon, and then at Northwood. That is Division II, Northwood University in Michigan. The Griffins will play up there Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock. So that's a GMAC conference opponent that the Griffins will be playing on Sunday at 4 o'clock. Missouri Western Indoor Track and Field, well, it all comes down to this. It's nationals for 2 Griffin throwers. St. Joseph native Mackenzie Garr throwing at nationals in shot put, and Alyssa Mahoney, the senior and 3-time All-American, making a return to nationals. She'll compete in shot put and weight throw coming up this weekend. The women's weight throw will be on Friday at 11:15, and then shot put is Saturday morning at 11:30. That event, again, it's taking place at the Fall Creek Pavilion this Friday and Saturday in Indianapolis. So Coach Cody Ingold is set to be here at some point to just give us a brief breakdown of that. And, of course, the outdoor track season is right around the corner as well, so we'll be talking about that. And, of course, like I led off with, we were down in Kansas City, at least a good number of us were, this past weekend. Missouri Western, we didn't play in the conference tournament until Friday, which is day 3 of the MIAA tournament at that point. Both teams in the quarterfinals. Women's basketball, a pretty thrilling win Friday night against Arkansas Fort Smith, leading up to what was a thrilling semifinal against Fort Hays State. Of course, Hays would beat our women's team 77-73, but we knew when the week began that women's basketball was in a great position. They had a great resume, being ranked 4th in the region entering last week. We felt pretty good about our odds, and for good reason. Last night, I mean about 9:35 p.m. Last night during the selection show, Missouri Western women's basketball back in the oh my goodness, sorry about that. Back in the NCAA tournament for a 3rd time in 4 years, and for the 15th time in program history. The Griffins did draw the 4 seed, and it's a pretty tough draw out of the gate, let's be honest. It's number 5 seed Minnesota State, as in Minnesota State, who won a national title in Civic Arena in St. Joseph last March. Now, they're not quite the unstoppable machine that they were last year, but they're still pretty good at 24-7. Of course, this will be a rematch of last year's first-round tournament game when we played Minnesota State. Remember how Minnesota State was the 7 seed somehow last year? Make it make sense, Division II. But that's who we played in the first round in Bethany, Oklahoma last year. Obviously, we know how that ended. Minnesota State would run through the bracket and win the national championship. So Missouri Western's the 4. Minnesota State is the 5 seed. And we do have a tip time. Hang on one second. There we go. Minnesota State's the 5 seed. Missouri Western is the 4. We do know a tip time. That'll be Friday at 7:30 from John Lance Arena in Pittsburg, Kansas. So that'll be the first round game. The winner will get either Pittsburg State or Harding on Saturday night at 7:30. Pitt State, obviously, the 1 seed, Harding the 8. The regional championship comes up Monday at 7 p.m. Should the Griffins get out of that, they would go from Pittsburg, Kansas to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the host of the Elite Eight this year, March 24th through the 28th. So it's exciting. It's a good field. It always is in the Central region, but women's basketball, proud to be part of it for the 3rd time in 4 years. And we'll talk men's basketball today, too, as well. Boy, howdy, what a pretty good game that was against Rogers State until the very last moment when Rogers wins on a buzzer-beating three-pointer to end what was ultimately, it wasn't the end goal, but it was ultimately a pretty solid men's basketball season at 18-13 overall, the most regular season wins in 22 years. Missouri Western men's basketball earned their highest seed in the MIAA tournament, highest seed in 4 years. We knew Rogers was going to be tough. That was a team with 22 wins, and it was a lot better than what happened in February when we went down there and they humbled us and beat us by 20. So the Griffins, a group of 8 seniors, they left it all on the floor. That much we can say in a thrilling game that Rogers just happened to be on the winning side of. And then, of course, Rogers State, they would lose to Fort Hays State. The Fort Hays State men won the MIAA title yesterday, and the Pittsburgh State women beat Fort Hays State in the women's championship yesterday afternoon. 2, honestly, pretty great games that were televised on 38 The Spot, and it was pretty cool to watch those games and hear our friends Tom Smith and Brett Easley be part of those broadcast crews yesterday. All right, we just threw a lot at you there, so we're going to get to all of it in the next hour. More basketball talk coming up a bit later on in the program. We'll take a break right now, and when we come back, basketball, they're not the only team doing some big postseason things this week. Indoor track and field. 2 Griffins competing in nationals this weekend in Indianapolis. Head coach Cody Ingold will talk about that with us when we return on the GSI Podcast, broadcasting live from Hi-Ho Bar and Grill on the Griffin Sports Network. Continuing from Hi-Ho Bar and Grill on the Griffin Sports Insider Podcast. Don't you laugh at me, Cody. Good Lord Almighty. But we're here. We're talking Missouri Western indoor track and field.
When you just talk for your job.
I know. It's it's like I don't know. Someone made the comment to me. It might have been our good friend Jerry Myers. He's like, I was talking to him before Saturday's game. He's like, the worst thing that can happen to a play-by-play broadcaster. I'm like, yeah, don't need to tell me twice. But you know what, Cody?
You powered through.
We did. It's March, and I ain't leaving. You'll have to pry me out of this seat this time of year. But an exciting week for you and for your program as Bella Mahone and Mackenzie Garr both qualifying for the NCAA Division II Indoor National Championship meet. In the case of Bella and Mackenzie competing on Friday and Saturday, whereas Bella will compete in weight throw Friday morning at 11:15, and then both competing in shot put Saturday at 11:30. We had Bella up here last week coming off the MIAA championships. This was, it's weird to say expected, but it kind of was. They've been nationally ranked in these events. They're both making return trips to nationals. Just another big week and already a proud career for those two. I don't know, how excited are you to get down there with them?
I'm excited. It's festival year, so we got to leave tomorrow and be there by tomorrow for opening ceremonies. It's going to be a long week of a lot of sitting around. It's cool to go and do some things, and we want to treat it that way. But also we're there for it's a meet. We're there to compete, and we're there to try to win a national title. So, got to find that middle ground there. And I'm excited though. Bella last year was like last one in shot, and this year right at conference she wasn't going to make it if she didn't throw further, and she did enough to get in, and she'll probably show up like she always does. I'm excited for that, and Mackenzie. 3rd in the country, so that's huge. Just and she's put some big ones out there where I think she can compete for a national title, and the number 1 seed's way out there, but you just got to make it. Hannah for a few years was the last one in and was All-American almost every year, So the hardest part is making it to national meet, and then you got to show up, and they do a really good job of showing up when it matters. So
when you say last one in, so like Bella, for instance, ranked 15th in the nation in shot put. Do they just take the top 15 Provos then? Or?
They take top 18, but she had dropped out. By the time, if she wouldn't have thrown as far as she did at conference, she would have made it.
Or she finished fifth.
Yeah, because she was, I think she was like 18th or 19th.
Gotcha.
Her mark before conference would have been fallen down. So, yeah, this is the first year where they used to take like 16 and then fill the field to 277 athletes per side or something like that. And we finally got, as coaching body, got it passed and went through the NCAA process of they take 18 indoor individuals, 18 declared. So there's we used to declare and then you'd wait for 24 hours and find out if you made it in or not, if you weren't in the guaranteed spots. So, like a year ago we didn't know if she was going to make it in shot, but because she made it in weight, we figured she would. But yeah, this year was pretty certain. So that was nice not having to wait an extra 24 hours to know if we were in. We knew exactly where we were, could start making plans for nationals. And, it's exciting. I've been here for, this is the 8th year, I think, right?
Sounds right, yeah.
Something like that. This is the first time we've done a festival. So I think festival fell on COVID years. So it'll be cool to experience. And I'm glad this is not their first national meet because if festival is as big as it's supposed to be, like if that's your first one and then you go to the next one, it's not as big and ceremonious, then it's going to feel like off. So it'll be cool. I'm excited. Yeah.
So what happens at this festival thing that you're talking about?
So I think it's just it's swimming, diving, and then wrestling. I think are all at the same location. We're all at the same hotels. We're all downtown. Nice. We're staying at like the Crown Plaza at Union Station, so like the old train station. Lucas Oil's right behind. Yeah. There, it's a cool little venue. Big Ten's basketball tournaments there. Yeah. So it's a cool thing. I just have never experienced it. The only thing I don't like is they get to tell us where to go and where to be and what to do. I'd like to be able to get there and do things on our own time, but if they're going to pay for it, then fine.
Yeah, and the event, the arena, is being held at the Fall Creek Pavilion, again, coming up the 14th and the 15th this Friday and Saturday. And, Big Ten tournaments in town. Nebraska's not in it, so no point in going, if you ask me. But, no, anyway. We'll be keeping track of that all weekend long. Again, the start times for those events, weight throw for Bella will be 11:15 on Friday morning. Shot put for both Bella and Mackenzie, 11:30 on Saturday. And, of course, the outdoor season's coming up. We know, it's going to be another big year for our throwers, of course, too. But as you shift toward outdoor, what are you excited about this spring?
Steeple's going to be our big thing, I think, on the distance side. So, we scored some points on the distance side indoor, but steeple, we have Powell and Weemoch both steeple. So I'm excited to see what they can do. Maddie continues to turn the corner. We get Abby Kinney back, so that'll be huge. Lillian's obviously rolling, so that crew's going to do good. And Tyrese always jumps well outdoors. So, as long as we can get Batman healthy and get rolling, I think we can have a good outdoor year. So.
And the first outdoor meet is when again?
March 28th and 29th in Shawnee, Oklahoma, OBU.
Okay, there you go. So that's coming up in just a few weeks from now. But until such time, one more indoor meet coming up for two of the Griffins' best of all time, really, now in throwing. That is Bella Mahone and Mackenzie Garr, both making return trips to indoor nationals. And, of course, Bella was a three-time All-American total and was an indoor All-American in both shot put and weight throw last year in the indoor meets. So big things ahead for both. They're ranked in the top 15 in their respective events, top 10 in some cases, so expect big things again this weekend from Bella Mahone and Mackenzie Garr this Friday and Saturday at Nationals in Indianapolis. Coach, enjoy the trip. Best of luck to those two, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thanks, Tommy. Try not to talk for like 48 hours.
I'm going to do it. Back. Yeah, that is the game plan. Thank you so much. Cody Ingold joining us here on the GSI Podcast. We're going to take a break. We're going to talk Missouri Western Golf as the women's team gets ready to start their season a week from today in Warrensburg at the Mules National Golf Club for the Midwest Intercollegiate Tournament. The men's team teed off last week, so we'll talk about women's golf coming up with Coach Matt Thrasher on the GSI Podcast from Hi-Ho Bar and Grill. Continuing from Hi-Ho Bar and Grill on our Griffin Sports Insider Podcast, I'm Tommy Rezach as we talk spring sports for the moment. Missouri Western men's golf teed off their season last Monday and Tuesday in Rogers, Arkansas, in the Arkansas Fort Smith Invitational. Was scheduled for 3 rounds. They only ended up playing 2 due to some weather. I know there was some rain and things that moved in, but the Griffins able to wrap it up last Tuesday, finishing 5th out of 17 teams. And Aiden Asby, who tied for 7th in the field, was the second highest finishing MIAA golfer. It was MIAA Golfer of the Week this past week. So we'll talk about your women's team here in a second, Thrash. But for your men, I know that was a windy day down there in Rogers. You talked about, the short game, the chipping, not quite where it needs to be yet. But end of the day, most of your guys had better second rounds than their first, and you had some nice finishes. Just thoughts on the men's first time out.
Yeah, it's we are obviously very rusty, like most of the teams down there. But it was like our, really only our third day on natural turf, but. We actually drove the ball from, off the tee very good, but from 150 yards in, we were a little bit to be desired. It was not good at all, but we actually could have won. We were right there.
Only 12 shots off the lead.
Yeah. And there with really like 9 holes left, we were only down by 2.
Wow.
And then got short, and then we had to come back the next day and play 3 holes, and that was about it. But I was proud of the guys. I mean, they fought hard, and we got quite a long way off. We don't play till the end of the month now, so. We'll hopefully we continue to get good weather and get outside more often.
I was going to say, the weather looks pretty promising. A little windy this week, but 60s and 70s basically all week for us here. Well, the women's team will start a week from today, next Monday, Tuesday. Midwest Intercollegiate in Warrensburg. Of course, we know well, the Mules National Golf Club. Now, I know the women, there were times at the fall where, they probably weren't where they wanted to be, but they had a strong end, a top 5 finish at that Rogers Invitational. We know it's a relatively young team, 3 freshmen on a team of 6 players, but you got Saya Schweitzer, Inez Vandelay, and Mariana Casadiego, your senior. So they've been there before. They've got some experience. How does that women's team kind of just keep going forward?
Yeah, we last year at the Mule, I call it the Mule, we finished 3rd. So we had a good outing there at Mules National. Missing a couple of the girls that that one girl entered the portal, and so we miss her a little bit. But really young, like you say. I mean, we have 2 freshmen that we actually weren't even planning on playing this year, and with Alyssa entering the transfer portal and heading to Pueblo, we've had to throw those 2 in there, and they're it's good and bad. It's good that they're getting quality reps, but it's bad that they're just not mature at this point in time. But they will be here in the next year or so.
Yeah. Well, and when we talked last week, you said your men's team had been on natural surface this practice session. You guys have been outside like twice, maybe 3 times going into Rogers, Arkansas. So this week, I mean, for both teams, next couple weeks, hopefully, if it stays like this, that'll be of a benefit.
Well, most definitely, yeah. I mean, getting outside and playing the ball down and not hitting off. It's easy to hit off bats. I mean, it's not very difficult. But when you got natural turf, it makes a difference, and you're just getting your reps in.
Yeah. Well, the Griffins go just a little ways down the road. It'll be next Monday, teeing off bright and early on Monday morning for a 2-day event. Will that be 2 total rounds then for the women?
Yeah, 8. We'll just go 18-18.
Yep. Yeah, 18 on Monday, 18 Tuesday for the Midwest Intercollegiate in Warrensburg. Men's golf has their spring season started. The women will get theirs started next week on St. Patrick's Day. So the Griffins look to have some good luck against some regional and conference competition there. And some beautiful days to get out on the links and get some swings in for Griffin golf. And that's head coach Matt Thrasher. Coach, thanks as always. Good luck next week.
Thank you.
There you go. Matt Thrasher joining us here on the GSI Podcast as we will take a break. We are scheduled here over the next 30 to 40 minutes to hear from Missouri Western Lacrosse, Missouri Western Baseball, and men's and women's basketball. That is all scheduled here up ahead. Men's basketball has just walked in. Lacrosse head coach Jessica Berg informs me she is on her way. She's running a bit late. We're also waiting on head coach Damian Stambersky of baseball. So I tell you what, we might just end up talking men's basketball next. Coach Will Martin is here, so we're going to go with that for the time being. So stay with us. We'll take a break, come back with more from Hi-Ho Bar and Grill right here on the Griffin Sports Network. We're back on the GSI Podcast from Hi-Ho Bar and Grill, talking basketball a bit earlier than anticipated, waiting on a couple of our spring sports coaches to get here. But in the meantime, we'll kind of just recap this 2024-25 men's basketball season with the head coach Will Martin just concluding his 5th season, getting down to MIAA tournament quarterfinals on Friday afternoon against Rogers State. It's a great game, Coach, until it wasn't there at the tail end. Rogers State hits a pretty tough shot there at the end. They beat us 59-56, and 8 seniors. That's probably the hardest part. We say goodbye to 8 terrific men. But just breaking down that game on Friday, I think you guys knuckled down and guarded a heck of a lot better than we did in Claremore in February. And, yeah, I mean, it was just airtight. What can you say? It was just a well-fought game, a defensive game. Comes down to one final shot. Just thoughts on the effort and the game plan on Friday.
One, credit to Rogers State and Justin Barkley. I think that they had an incredible season, and Anthony Marshall, who was first-team All-League, they lost him due to injury for 5 or 6 games early in the season, and then they lost Kofi Hamilton the second semester. And that's a team that they play so hard. They're very physical, and we have a ton of respect for them. So congrats to them on a great season. For us, that game, we really wanted to hunker down defensively. You and I talked about that. I thought that our staff did a great job of, putting a scout together in terms of how we wanted to guard them defensively. And I thought our guys executed that scout really well. Offensively, we turned the ball over too much. I thought that we missed, way too many layups for us. And then, being top 2, top 3 in free throw field goal percentage all year, we left 6 on the board, and 2 of those were the front end of 1-and-1s. And so, offensively, I think we'll look back at that game and, just look at the missed opportunities that we had around the rim and at the free throw line. But in the MIAA tournament, you expect that a little bit. Those rims get tighter and the pressure is a little harder. And so I'm really proud of our seniors, obviously. I think that all of us as competitors, you want to win 30 games every year. You want to cut down nets. You want to get that ring. It's important also to take a step back and look at perspective. And so this senior group, 18 wins in the regular season is the most in 22 years for Missouri Western men's basketball. First back-to-back 17-plus wins in 22 years as well. And that's credit to our seniors and what they've put into this program to make sure that we could build it back to a championship caliber program and to do it in a sustainable way. And I'm really proud of them for laying the bricks to allow us to do that. And so I could speak for hours on each one of those seniors. Obviously we had emotional time after the game, making sure that we gave everybody their proper flowers for what they've done for this program. And the other thing too with those seniors is that last year we had the highest GPA in the history of Griffin men's basketball, and we've gotten awards for things that we've done in the community, and that's all credit to that senior group that have been here and stayed true and stayed loyal to Missouri Western, and I can't thank them enough and can't be more proud of them for the impact and the legacy that they've left on this program.
Yeah, so many of those seniors, obviously, and a guy like, Zane Nelson, Kittrell Blocker, they give us, one terrific year in their last year of eligibility, but, Ethan Kilgore for 3 years, Julius Dixon for 3, Zion Swader for 4, Justin Bubach for 5, Matt Nunez for 3. I mean, it goes on. And talking about some of those awards, so cool to see Ethan Kilgore get that A-Game Scholar Athlete Award for a second year in a row. And Coach Hood was telling me in postgame that when you all took the floor, Ethan had no idea that was going to happen, did he?
Yeah, and, Ethan's been such a great story because he was such a star at East Buck. Yeah. And, he goes to Idaho, and, he's a kid that's never going to complain or never wants anyone to know about, the struggles or adversities that he's faced. But that's a kid that had reconstructive ankle surgery and had to battle through that just to get back on the floor. And so I thought that he did a lot for us on the court this year. But what he's done for us in terms of just representing Griffin men's basketball in the community and, the academic award just shows, what he's done even off the court. And that's important to us. And when we recruit, we use that. We're not just recruiting talent. We're recruiting character, and we're recruiting guys that want to come and make a bigger impact than just winning basketball games. And, Ethan is a prime example of that.
When you talk about recruiting, you brought in, 3 freshmen, 3 transfers this past year, and obviously we say goodbye to these seniors, and that's our whole starting lineup that we bid adieu to. So that's a little bit, scary just on the surface level, but I know you and your staff constantly working, constantly evaluating the talent that is out there. And, think of a guy like Josh Book, who was on the shelf this year. We get him back. Dev Butler's a guy that's coming back. J.C. Anthony, who was a senior, took a redshirt season. He can come back if he so chooses to do so. So there's definitely some pieces there. What does this offseason look like just in terms of recruiting here?
Yeah, I mean, the climate has changed so much.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't ever want to turn into a GM where you're just trying to put a new team together every year. However, with the transfer portal and everything else, it kind of lends itself to that type of climate. And so, for us, we want to have a mixture of both. We want to bring in high school kids every year, 3 or 4, that we can really develop, that will stay and kind of do it the old school way. but we also want to make sure that we're in the portal and we're bringing in guys that can make an immediate impact. And I think Zane Nelson was a great example of that this year. We're going to want to capitalize in the portal again. I think that across the board in college basketball and college athletics in general, it's not what it used to be where you would lose 8 seniors and then you're like, oh my gosh, it's a complete rebuild. Every year's a rebuild. Every single year you're piecing together a brand new squad and a brand new team. And so, we've already been grinding from a recruiting standpoint, and we really like the high school kids that we've brought in, and we might bring in a couple more high school kids. I like, mentoring and developing young guys and molding them into the culture of our team, but we're also going to make sure that we utilize and execute in the portal.
Well, you've talked about in the past that, you want to build something sustainable, something that'll last, something with guys that, want to put in some time here, whether that's 4 years or 2 or whatever it is. So you talk about sustainability now. The last 6 years, there's been 4 winning seasons. You've been a part of all of those. There's only been 6 winning seasons the last 22 years, and you've been part of 4 of them, 3 as a head coach, 1 as an assistant with various players and things like that. And you hold yourself accountable better than most people I know, and you'll be the first to say, we ain't there yet. We haven't quite arrived yet, but we can at least say we're competitive, we're viable. We're at times beating some of the best in our league and in the region. There's no one thing we can point to. We know that. But as you look to the future of this program, it is on better footing statistically than it's been the last couple of decades. But how do you kind of just continue to keep building and take that next step forward?
I think you have to take the next step, which, for us, it's, making sure that, next year we take a step, in the league, making sure that we do our job against the league and making sure that, I don't like to put I'm careful with my words because it's hard to put a number on things. You can have a 18-win season and make it to the NCAA tournament. You can have a 23-win season like Candy had and get left out. So you try not to look at things from a numerical standpoint. However, for us making that next step, it's consistently winning 20 games a year.
Yep.
So while I'm being careful – not to put so much weight on numbers. I think that what we've shown the last 2 years is that, we can win 17, 18 games. We can beat top 25 opponents. I think every year that I've been a head coach except for 1 year, we've spent time in the top 25. A goal for next year is to get into that top 25 and stay in the top 25. And so there's so many, pinpoint things that we can use as a staff and as a team to say, hey, these are the steps that we've taken, and we're going to celebrate those, but we're nowhere close to where we want to be. How can we get together and put a POA together, plan of action, to make sure that, yes, we're going to be happy with the sustainability that we've built? How do we take the next step now? And so, for us, it's making sure that we recruit the right guys. We continue to bring in the right character and the right talent. It's being consistent throughout the year. This year I thought we did a much better job. Won 3 of our last 5 to finish. Lose on a buzzer beater to Rogers. But it's how are we going to finish the season next year? How are we going to make sure, like I said, that we go from sustainability to then going to the next level where we take a bigger jump in terms of how we execute and how we succeed. I'm excited. I think that the groundwork has been built, and again, it's on the shoulders of those seniors and those guys that have stayed. And I'm excited for what the future holds for Griffin men's basketball.
Yeah, just such a high character group. I'm going to miss watching a lot of those guys play. And as I told Coach Hood on Friday, Will, that 4 years with you, it's been fun through the highs and lows. I'm proud to know you guys as men and as friends and family. And I'm just proud to be alongside you guys through the highs and lows. And can't wait to see where this goes. And appreciate the time all year long, man.
Thanks, Tommy.
There you go. Will Martin joining us once again, putting the bow on the 2024-25 season. Again, there's only one happy team at the end of the year. We know that, but strides continuing to be made in this program. We'll take a break. We'll go back to spring sports for a bit. We'll talk Griffin lacrosse next. Head coach Jessica Berg is here as lacrosse gets ready for 2 matches this week, 1 at home and 1 in the state of Michigan coming up this weekend. We discuss it next on the GSI Podcast from Hi-Ho Bar and Grill. We keep rolling here on the Griffin Sports Insider Podcast, live from Hi-Ho Bar and Grill in St. Joseph. I'm Tommy Rezach, talking Missouri Western lacrosse now with the head coach Jessica Berg. The Griffins had just 1 match. It was this past Friday. They played it on a neutral site, Quincy, Illinois, against the the Northern Michigan Wildcats, a regional match in which Northern Michigan did come away with an 18-6 victory. Coach, I know that one, not fun. They kind of jump on us relatively early, 6 goals in the second, 6 more in the fourth, and they kind of had an advantage in ground balls and draw controls. Just going back to that one on Friday, just kind of what led to that? What were you left pondering at the end of that match, I guess?
Yeah, I think we just need to find our fight and fire. I think the other team had more fire under them and were more aggressive, and I think we just kind of handed it to them. I do think they're a really great team. I think that one stings. I think the score doesn't show how good of a team we are, but we just have to want it. I think we're expecting a lot of our teammates to pick up the ground balls, and so I'm like, why not you? Why not? We should have a why not me mentality and going for the ball. But this week's of practice, we're just going to really focus on those 50-50 balls the whole time.
Yeah, and this was the first road loss of the season. Now, the previous 2 losses, it really came down to the last minutes, last goal in certain instances. This is one where it's they kind of humbled us. You look up and, the score may not indicate how good or bad we are necessarily, but when you lose one like that, you're held to only 6 goals. You talked about team fight, but ultimately, what else do you hope this team, takes away from it, learns from it? Do you hope that this is something that gives this team a little fight?
Oh, yeah, I hope. I hope so,
Yeah.
But I think taking such a big loss, it's really fine-tuning the things, but we need to make it happen. We talk about the same changes. Honestly, we've lost every game we've lost, we lose for the exact same reasons. So it's actually making the adjustments and not just talking about it. We talk about it every quarter. It's the exact same thing every quarter, and it's people need to start making the moves to actually get there. But it's a good sign, though. We practiced on Saturday after we got back on Friday night, and they're very focused. I think everyone's on the same page of knowing what we need to do. At practices, we're crushing it. It's just that mental block of somehow making the games maybe not be so big of a game and just feel like another practice maybe, just so that they're play looser and with less of a weight on their shoulders. I think honestly that's what we're seeing out there is they're a little bit afraid or timid to make the mistakes, but I've been telling them you're making the mistake either way, so you might as well just go 100% into whatever your plan is for that game.
Yeah, it's you can practice something a million times, but it's when the red light goes on, when the stadium lights go on, it's just that extra element of sometimes butterflies. You're back home this Friday. We take on Concordia St. Paul, a team that's always pretty solid. They've been ranked, I know, in the last few years, and they beat McKendree this past Thursday. They had a battle with Maryville, who's in our conference, nationally ranked, coming at 4-2. Played them 3 years in a row. You know them well. What's the key to this one on Friday?
I think it's the fight. I want to pop them in the mouth. We've been getting popped in the mouth. So
Sure.
I think that's the whole thing is just implementing the game plan and being confident in ourselves and each other and being dogs on the field.
That is a noon start on Friday at Spratt Stadium. Weather looks pretty promising as well. And then you go to the Northwood University in Michigan, Sunday afternoon, 4 o'clock in Midland, Michigan. Not too far from the shores of Lake Huron in Michigan. So obviously they're in the GMAC conference, I believe they are. Not our usual fare. I don't know if you've had time to scout them yet or not, but what do you make of this team here?
One game at a time, Tommy. But they are a newer program, so it will be interesting to see what they do against us. I think really I'm very confident against them. Kind of have been focusing on Concordia St. Paul, but we have 3 games in 6 days, so I have been looking at Northwood and Walsh.
Sure.
Those are in-region games, so I think it's going to be a good road trip for us. I think that part of what we're dealing with right now is having so many home contests. You don't have a lot of time to connect with your teammates.
Yeah.
The hotel, the nights at the hotel are really bonding, and I think that will be really good for our group.
Yeah, the Griffins will be, they'll split up the drive, make a drive to Michigan, then, Tuesday the 18th, you're in North Canton, Ohio, to take on the University of Walsh of Ohio. So 2 big road matches. Then you're off for a little bit till March 31st against Dominican, a team from California, on the last day of March. That's a Monday afternoon match. That's 3 weeks from today. So that's 4 matches between now and the 31st, but at least you get a little gap in there. That can't hurt, right, just to get some fresh legs before conference play?
Oh, yeah. We have I think it's 10-day break between Walsh and Dominican, so that will be really great to have more than just one off day. I think we do anticipate just letting them rest for recharge, fill their cups, do something what they need so that they can come 100% for the conference play.
That's right, and the conference opener comes up Saturday, April 5th against Quincy, so still plenty of chances to go out and support lacrosse here this spring. Coach Berg, thanks for the time. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
There you go. Jessica Berg, as the Griffins will be home on Friday. to Concordia St. Paul, and then on the road to Northwood, Michigan on Sunday. Going to take a break. We got to talk baseball yet. Coach Damian Stambersky and shortstop Quinn Gundelfiner in the house to talk about yesterday's thrilling win against Northeastern State and a busy road trip coming up for Griffin baseball. That's straight ahead on the GSI Podcast from Hi-Ho Bar and Grill. Continuing from Hi-Ho Bar and Grill on the Griffin Sports Insider Podcast, I'm Tommy Rezach as we talk Missouri Western baseball now with the head coach Damian Stambersky and student athlete, a senior shortstop from Nixa, Missouri, Quinn Gundelfiner, joining us up here today as Missouri Western hosted Northeastern State in an MIAA series this weekend. And, as it's been happening this year, the schedule altered a bit. We ended up playing an 18-inning doubleheader Saturday with a series finale on Sunday. Riverhawks come away winning 7-5, 8-2 Saturday, but then 13-11 Griffin victory on Sunday afternoon. And it was Quinn Gundelfiner who hit a grand slam in the bottom of the eighth to snap what was a 13-game slide. And, Coach, I know in no way has this been the start you had envisioned or hoped for, but how big of a relief was it to see your team come through in a game that was, let's face it, very back and forth, both teams hitting, putting the ball in play, just to see your team do the right things to close it out? How big was that?
I wish I could say that it was a relief, but I'm kind of the mind that the sting of losing far outweighs the joy of winning. So
I understand.
It was great to see them get to enjoy it. That part is always enjoyable. So it was great to see one of our best players step up in a very pivotal moment and make a play. Wasn't even on my mind. I'm not gonna lie. I was one pitch away from putting the double squeeze on. So good for him. He chased all 4 runs in instead of just 2.
Yeah, and Quinn, they made a pitching change before your at-bat. You had a good day, 2 of 5, 2 runs scored, 5 ribbies in all. Just when they made that pitching change, what were you seeing? How confident were you at that point in the game?
I trusted my ability, and, my teammates got on base for me, so I just wanted to execute for them and put us in a good position. So, and then I didn't try for that, but it ended up working, so, yeah.
So was that your first collegiate grand slam then? Or?
No, I've had 2.
Okay.
Or 3, but
were those at Garden City? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one was at Griffin then?
I think so.
Yeah. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Don't mean to put you on the spot. I apologize. But he was one of 3 Griffins to hit a home run. Frank Gall, Tyson Gertis also went yard, each with a 2-run bomb in that victory. On the pitching side, Coach, you had 6 different pitchers. Gunner had a pretty solid start there for a while, struck out 5 in 4 innings. And then how about Jacob Ross coming in 2 innings of scoreless relief to get his first win of the season?
Yeah, Gunner's really made a commitment over the last 3 weeks to force contact, and it's not ideal the way he's doing. I think opponents are hitting 370 against him, but when you don't hand them free stuff, it gets a lot easier to put your team in a position to win baseball games. And that's all we ask out of any pitcher is just give the offense one more chance to score. And that's exactly what Jacob Ross did in the 8th, and then Gunner did, for the majority of the game at that point. So that's been the biggest thing with our pitching and our catching is just those guys have got to take ownership in this and put the ball in play and make the other team earn every bit of what they get. So I'm tired of handing stuff away, and we've been far too good at that.
Yeah, well, in the case of Sunday, after Quinn's home run, a 1-2-3 inning in the top of the 9th to seal that victory. Quinn, back to you for a little bit. You had a pretty good career there at Garden City, an all-conference standout. You were an academic All-American there, played 2 seasons there. When you were looking to make that move up to a 4-year institution, obviously this is your home state. But beyond that, what was it about Mo West and Coach Stambo that kind of appealed to you in your game?
Definitely just the culture he was bringing in, and just we're pretty like-minded, and it started with a good conversation on the phone, and then when I got here, we just had a lot in common, and I just thought it'd be a really good fit, close to home.
Coach mentioned how he enjoyed seeing you guys just enjoy it, have a good moment together. I mean, for this clubhouse right now, I know that this month really has not been an easy one. Just to get one in the win column, your first conference win, your first home win. I mean, time will tell, obviously, but how much was this team just needing a moment like that?
I mean, yeah, it's been tough. It was nice to get a win.
Yeah.
So we just got to, we didn't play our best baseball yesterday, even though we won. And so we got to keep improving and getting better on both sides, defensive especially. And so just keep playing good baseball. I think this team can go as far as we want. So
it's a long game. It's a long season. We know that, and still lots of opportunities ahead. including this week, start of a 9-game road trip for Missouri Western baseball. They'll play at Maryville tomorrow afternoon, and then a 3-game series with Newman this weekend. Tomorrow's game starts at 3, and then this weekend's times, at least projected, scheduled to be 2 o'clock Friday, 1 o'clock Saturday, Sunday. And Coach, I don't know how much records really mean at this point in time. Maryville 6-7, Newman 5-13. I think some opportunities for your team to do some good things, and going to be on the road for a little while. So that in mind, what are the goals? What's the focus here the next few days?
Well, continue to play one pitch at a time. Learn what the game's telling us that we need to do better, and stay attached to our process. I mean, that is the biggest piece of it. We've got a very good group of young men. We've got a lot of athleticism. We need to put ourselves in positions to let the athleticism show up. So it doesn't matter if we're playing Newman, Central Missouri, Central Oak. They're all the same. It's a faceless, nameless opponent that gives us an opportunity to respond to the next right thing. So it all sounds cliche, but it is exactly what we need to be doing day in and day out. Every pitch, it's just show up and play. So you cannot change the fact that Newman is going to have 40-mile-an-hour winds blowing straight out to center field.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. But you cannot walk the guy prior to the 17-kilometer home run that they're about to hit because the wind's blowing out at 40 miles an hour. So we're not going to be able to change those things. We just have to respond the right way and put ourselves in a position to limit the damage. And, we've showed the propensity to be able to put up touchdowns and extra points and all that kind of stuff. So let's go do it this weekend.
Yeah, we've had some high-scoring games, that is for sure. Tomorrow afternoon at 3 from Maryville University in St. Louis, and then Wichita, Kansas to take on the Newman Jets. I mean, hey, these guys were in Hayes a little over a week ago. They know windy games in the state of Kansas. And, the Griffin's going to be on the road for the next couple of weeks. So, gentlemen, thanks for the time. Good stuff on Sunday, and good luck this week.
Thanks, Tommy.
There you go. Damian Stambersky and Quinn Gundelfiner joining us on this part of the program. Missouri Western Baseball gets one in the win column yesterday. Take a break. We'll wrap things up with women's basketball. It was just a little over 12 hours ago. They heard their name called on Selection Sunday, and we'll preview a big weekend ahead in Pittsburgh, Kansas for the NCAA Central Region Tournament. That is straight ahead from the GSI Podcast. On the GSI Podcast from Hi-Ho Bar and Grill. Rounding out the show today with Missouri Western women's basketball and the head coach Ashton Feldhaus on the Griffin Sports Insider Podcast. 20 wins on the season, and for the third time in 4 years, the 15th time in program history, this Griffin team is going dancing in the NCAA Central Region Tournament, coming off of a run in the MIAA Tournament in Kansas City this past weekend. Griffins draw the 4 seed. And they'll take on Minnesota State Friday night at 7:30. We do have a tip time that was announced to us here earlier today. Coach Feldhaus, you said it, all the way back when you were hired, that this was the goal all along. It's the goal every single year. And for you in your first year as a head coach and a group of 10 terrific women, you hit this goal to get back to the tournament. I don't know. It's been probably a whirlwind of 24 hours for you, but just how are you feeling as this week begins?
Good. I wish I wasn't as tired as I am, but feeling good. No, we're excited. It just, once you're at this point, it just moves. So no really time to be tired. And it's the same thing we're telling our kids. We're just moving. So Kendall and I got a lot of work to do, but just excited because you're right. It was our goal at the start of the season, and we kind of got to this point, but we don't just want to go and play a game. We want to go and win some games. So.
Yeah, I know there was meetings this morning, probably more meetings to come. A lot of planning that goes into these tournaments. We know that for sure. We can say this for sure. Your team played really hard this past week against 2 quality opponents. In the case of Fort Hays State, we always know they're one of the best in the region, in the country. They were 9th best in the nation when we played that game on Saturday night. I know there were some tired legs in that game on Saturday for sure, but I think your team has shown that even now we're all tired, we're all aching, right? But they showed, I think, this past weekend that they can hang with the best that this region has to offer, and it's got to be encouraging going into this week.
No, it is. It's just, can we put together 2 days in a row? That's going to be, the same, we're facing the same thing, and then you're playing Minnesota State, who's going to press us for 40 minutes. Yeah. So it's a toughness category, and don't get me wrong, our kids play extremely hard, but there's a time to be tired, and then there's a time to push through. And you talk about like the Laura Tafali's and the Marie Sepps of the world, those kids just push through. So we need everybody else kind of on board to do the same thing if we're going to not just win one game, but try to go back-to-back games. And we've said it all week, like there's no time to be tired. Like you got to find there's just like will your way to do some things because everyone's doing the same thing at this point.
I know you've been throwing a ton of questions that land in the category of what did you learn at Eckerd, but being in 5 NCAA tournaments in a row, as an assistant coach, an associate head coach, being in all of those. I mean, how does some of those moments help you and Kendall prepare for a week like this?
No, I over-prepared, I think is a good way to put it. I talked to Paul this morning. I will say this, and I tell our kids this all the time. Like last year, we were 2 points away from making it back-to-back Sweet 16 runs, and we did it with 7 kids, like 2 subs on the bench. So it can be done. It's all preparation, but then it's how good of a team are you? We beat Union, who was 3rd in the country at the time, and they pressed for 40 straight minutes, and our little point guard just dribbled right through them for 40 straight minutes. So it can be done. It's I'm super grateful because we were put in so many different scenarios when I was at Eckerd. And then when we made it to the Sweet 16, we did it with our player of the year who tore ACL. So it can be done. At this point, it's who is the better team and who's kind of willing to sacrifice and who steps up, because you do have to have some players kind of step up and have standout games. And we know Minnesota State has multiples that can do that, but I think we do as well.
We've talked all year about how, this team was kind of maybe labeled an underdog by some of the peers in our league with losing all the seniors and some of the change that we had this year. And you and I have talked about it. Only 5 of the 10 players on your team had started a game at the NCAA level when this season began. We talked about this is a group of role players and stuff like that. But, man, this is a team now that multiple months, multiple games under their belt. Feels like a group of hardened veterans by this point, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think they've really bought into that narrative, right? That everyone counts us out. And we are, I said it last game, we're not a star-studded roster at all. It takes an inordinate amount of assists and using each other to get to the point that we've at. And obviously we have Alyssa, and she is the standout, but we don't do it without like a Laura Tafali on defense, or a Marie Sepp when I have to take Alyssa out, or a Gosha who comes in for 20 minutes and just works her tail off. Like we don't, and then you got Cassie who goes off for 30 some games. So it is by committee, no doubt, and that's what we keep. We're still preaching that to our kids. Like it's not me time anymore. You have to use each other, especially when we're going to play against these teams who have kids who are reigning National Player of the Year. Like we need everybody, and right now we're 9, but all 9 of them will play. I can promise you that, especially against a team like Minnesota State. So, yeah, we're leaning on each other, and then Kendall and I will get somewhat creative with the press and kind of see what we can do, but not overcoach our team because, again, we have Alyssa, so I'm hoping she can just dribble right through it.
Yeah, well, I do know this. Alyssa Bonilla did lead us in scoring when we played Minnesota State in that NCAA tournament game last March in Bethany. This time we go to John Lance Arena, Pittsburgh, Kansas. It's actually a place we did not play in the regular season. We hosted Pitt for the one regular season meeting. So it is a rematch with Minnesota State, the defending national champions. I know there's a number of us in this room that watched them win that national title in Civic Arena last March. They made it this year, though, Minnesota State, to the NSIC Tournament Championship. Lost to Concordia St. Paul. The Golden Bears going to be a big contender in this tournament. They're the number 2 seed. Everyone's a contender. It's the Central region. We're all pretty good. But in the case of Minnesota State, they did lose some pieces, but they brought back, when I count, 6 players who started at least 5 games from that team, championship team a year ago. Emily Tisi, obviously a great coach for them. You already talked about it. They have just such high energy to be able to trap and press for 40 minutes in a row. It's just what they do, and by and large, it does work for them. And sounds like you already have a pretty good grasp on who they are, what they do. Just what's the key leading into Friday night at this point?
I think once you break the press, they're still coming to trap. So it's making the right reads and then not being sped up in the half court. I know, and especially when it comes to like legs, like as soon as we break the press, get Alyssa to pull the ball out, and then we'll get creative kind of with what we want to run. But it may be a scenario where we don't start with like 12 seconds left on the shot clock. And then, I do know this, we average 10 made threes a game, and they average 3 made threes a game. So anytime we have an open look, we're going to take it. And they play fast and erratic, and they shoot pull-up jump shots, and a lot of their points come off layups because they're turning people over. So it's, can we take care of the basketball? And then once you beat the press, do we have enough lungs and legs to make something happen on the offensive end? And then we've got to defend all 5 players that they start are 5'9" or taller, and they go 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot, 6 foot. So we give up a lot of size this game. But with that being said, I do think we can beat them off the dribble. So I don't know if they can stay in front of us. It's a total clash of styles. So I'm excited to see. And then hopefully, if it's a game in the last 2 minutes, it's going to be who can make the right plays in March, which is fun.
That's right, and the winner will advance to the regional semifinals Saturday at 7:30, and then the regional championship comes up Monday at 7 o'clock. And I asked you, I'll end with this. I asked you when you came up here. I feel like everyone always kind of asks, like people were asking me yesterday, like, what do you think about that draw? And it's just kind of like, well, I don't know. It's all pretty tough, right? The last time we won the regional, we were a 7 seed. Minnesota State was a 7 seed when they won the national title last year. So at this point, it's like, it's kind of like the conference tournament, isn't it? Records don't exactly matter. Heck, I don't think even seeding matters much in this one. 1 through 8, they're all really good.
Yeah, and I think especially for me, obviously coming from the South region, I knew every single one of those teams like the back of my hand. This is all new for me. So a lot of these teams I have not seen before, and you're like in a hole. Will talks about it all the time, but when we're in, like, you're just in our bubble during season. So I'm seeing some new teams. Like, I don't know much about a couple of them, but we'll go one game at a time, obviously, and we'll get prepared for the first one, and then Kendall and I will just keep working if we're fortunate enough to do so. So, yeah, I think for the draw, it just is what it is. I know it's exciting because it's who beat them last year, so I'll make that a thing for our team. But I'm kind of fortunate, and I feel like that all year long. Like, I haven't been too hung up on who we've played because I don't know anything about them. So it's kind of fun in that way. We've prepared for every game like it's the same. So, yeah, this will be fun. And obviously reigning national champions, you go in with like, okay, that'd be fun to knock them off. But, again, we prepare this just like we do for anybody in our league. So.
Yeah, just another game. At the end of the day, the court's the same size, the ball's the same size, the baskets are the same. So we'll play 40 minutes on Friday night at 7:30 from John Lance Arena in Pittsburgh, Kansas. Pitt State, the regional host, and we'll just see what happens from there. But it was said during the watch party last night, it bears repeating, whatever happens from this point out, this is a terrific achievement to be counted amongst this field for the third time in 4 years. And Coach Feldhaus, it's been a heck of a year. Can't wait to see you guys down there. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Tom.
There you go. Ashton Feldhaus joining us. NCAA tournament bound. We're happy to say that we're just kind of used to it. It's just kind of what this program does, and they've done it for the 15th time in history. So looking forward to it. There's 3 MIAA teams down there. Friday night, 7:30. We're the 4th and final game on Friday. It's going to be a good slate. Stay tuned to GoGriffins.com. It'll be on the radio as normal. We'll have some streaming information there for you, ticket information, all there for you throughout the week at GoGriffins.com and on all of our Missouri Western Athletics social media pages. So just stay tuned, and see you in Pittsburgh. Can't wait to get down there. All right, that's going to do it for the Griffin Sports Insider Podcast. Thanks to all the coaches. Thanks to Quinn Gundelfiner, our student athlete, for joining us. Thanks to all of you for joining us here today at Hi-Ho Bar and Grill. Programming note, yes, it is St. Patrick's Day next Monday, and we're at Hi-Ho. I would say we're probably not going to have a show on Monday. We could be still down in Pittsburgh covering a regional championship, so no show on the 17th. We may or may not have one next week. But there's only going to be a couple of these left in the school year as well. So just be patient with us. We're going to do at least one more show to recap women's basketball. So just stay tuned for that as well. But until then, enjoy the tournament. Enjoy the basketball this coming week. It's March. Just enjoy the weather as well. I'm Tommy Rezach. Thanks for being here. So long.